What's good, guys? Angel of the Night here, back again with some more ranked VGC battles. As you can see, we're up against Giddy. Giddy's got with him a Galarian Moltres as well as a Sableye. Now, if you take a look at my Pokemon that I've decided to bring out, we decided to go in with our Dusclops as well as our Rillaboom. Rillaboom's going to go ahead and get the grassy terrain set up while our Dusclops is going to frisk our opponents and reveal the Citrus Berry and a Light Clay. Now, with that being said, there are two Dark-type Pokemon on the opposing side. That Galarian Moltres and Sableye are a threat to our Dusclops here, even with the Evolite. So, we're going to go in for the Terra Dark here, get the Trick Room set up, because a lot of the Pokemon that we have on our team right now are going to be a little bit slower. Plus, as well, we also want to set up the Trick Room for the Araquanid that's actually in our party. The Rillaboom, of course, we're going to go in for the Fake Out here. We're going to try to flinch that Galarian Moltres. So that way, if it decides to go in for the KO onto the Dusclops before we get any kind of moves in, you know, we're going to basically flinch it. We don't want to take damage from this thing. This Galarian Moltres is going to be a pain in the butt. Okay, here we go. We got the terrain up. We've got the Terra Change already in place. There's the Fake Out. Of course, we are going to also see a Reflect from the Sableye, and we've flinched the Galarian Moltres. It cannot do any kind of attacks this turn. And of course, here we go with the Trick Room. Trick Room setting up the Twisted Dimensions, allowing slower Pokemon to attack first. Now, was that necessarily the smartest play with the Sableye? Probably not, but I haven't seen too many Sableye actually go in for any kind of actual attacking moves. Haven't seen any kind of physical or special attacks. Usually it's just used as more of like a setup type Pokemon. Now, as you guys know, with the Global Challenge 2024 Part 3 coming up, we are testing out some different teams. So first things first, I want to say a shout out to Santrubot, or as I like to say, VGC Pastes, for putting up a lot of VGC related teams. They're quite helpful, and you know what? We've got that bot over at Snowpoint Temple. If you guys wanted to find some VGC teams to use, come on by and search up some pokes. So we're going in for the U-turn here. We're going to go back to the party with a Rillaboom, and we're going to bring in our Araquanid. Now, of course, with Araquanid onto the field, we should be able to attack first. The joys of Trick Room, guys. The Araquanid is actually trained up so that way it is slower than the Blood Moon Beast Ursaluna, which is quite common in VGC. So we're going to go in, try to do a liquidation here. I'm just going to go in for a Nightshade, try to get some damage off onto our opponents. Now, there's really not a whole lot that this Moltres is going to be able to do here at this point. It is going to be the fastest Pokemon onto the field, but in this situation here, it's going to be the last Pokemon to attack. Here comes the Quash from the Sableye. Of course, not affecting the Dusclops because we are a Dark type here at this time. Nightshade doing some decent damage onto the Sableye. The Liquidation, of course, coming in to the Moltres. And of course, it's activated the Berserk, and as well as the Citrus Berry. Now, the Citrus Berry is going to regain some health there back to the Moltres, and in comes the Air Slash, super effective onto the Araquanid, mainly because we are a Bug-type Pokemon, along with that additional typing of Water. Now, with Dusclops onto the field here, we're going to go in for a little bit of damage off onto the Moltres. We're going to go for the Nightshade, and of course, like most VGC players, we're going to go in for the Protect. Now, the Protect, of course, is going to allow us to not take damage this turn from any of the Pokemon on the opposing side. Now, of course, Quash was aimed towards the Araquanid. We're protected. Can't really do anything to us. We got the Nightshade off onto the Moltres, activating his Berserk and boosting up his special attack. Now, we are protected, like I did say, and we're getting a little bit of HP left back from the grassy terrain. Now, Dusclops, I could either swap out or I could stay in. Pretty much at this point, I need it in for some support here, so we're going to go for the Nightshade off onto the Sableye again, and we're going to go for the Liquidation onto the Moltres. Now, the whole purpose of going for that Nightshade prior onto the Moltres was to be able to get a little bit of chip damage, and it seems that it may, or, well, I think it's going to pay off, really. Get the Nightshade off onto the Sableye. That's going to do quite a bit of damage there. And of course the Liquidation going to be able to pick off the Moltres. If we didn't do that Nightshade there prior, probably wouldn't have been able to take out that Moltres. Now, of course, we get a little bit of HP back from the grassy terrain, and of course, at this time, the grassy terrain has disappeared. However, we can set it up again. We do still have Rillaboom in the party, so that's going to actually help us out here. Ed's going to come in with a Comfey. Now, of course, Comfey is a Fairy-type Pokemon, and it has capabilities of basically healing some of the opponent's team. Now, do we go for the Trick Room here yet again, or do we just go in for the attack? I kind of want to go for the Trick Room, but I'm not too sure at this time in the battle if it's going to be beneficial for us, considering that Sableye and Comfey are quite small and slow Pokemon. So we're going to go in for the Protect there with the Araquanid. I don't want to take any kind of damage this turn. I'm just going to kind of scout it out like a typical VGC player. Draining Kiss, of course, coming in from the Comfey, taking a little bit of health there from the Dusclops. There's the Quash coming in towards the Araquanid. Of course, not going to be able to do anything here because we are protected. And of course, the Nightshade is going to pick off the Sableye. Finally, at about 6 minutes in, Sableye is gone. Okay, next Pokemon coming in, it is going to be an Ogerpon Wellspring Mask. Now, of course, that is a Grass-Water type Pokemon here at this time. It's a dual typing. We're going to go in for... we're going to go for the Protect here, I think. Or are we going to go for the Leech Life? Okay, so I was kind of debating between the two type of moves here. I wasn't too sure if we were going to go for the Protect and check to see what this Ogerpon's going to do, or if we were going to go in for the Leech Life. Now, Leech Life could have probably done some damage off to Ogerpon, but if it went for the Spiky Shield, we would have actually received some damage this turn. Now, the Comfey, of course, is going to go in for the Terra Change, going to go into the Fairy typing. And there's the Draining Kiss, of course, coming back into the Dusclops. They're like, you know what, we've had enough of your Dusclops, man. We don't want your Trick Rooms. They're going to go after me pretty hard here. And as you guys can see, an Evolite Dusclops has some serious defensive stats. We're going to get that Trick Room back up here again. We've twisted the dimensions, allowing slower Pokemon to again attack first. Now we're going to go in for the Nightshade here off onto the Comfey. And then we're going to go in for the attack off onto the Ogerpon. Now, at this time, it's not clear if our Araquanid is going to be able to survive. But you know what? Here's the Comfey again, going in for the Draining Kiss. Finally being able to knock out our Dusclops here. And you know what? Dusclops has served its purpose. It's been able to get the Trick Room up multiple times there for Araquanid, which is quite helpful. We're going to get a Leech Life off here onto the Ogerpon. We're not going to really get a whole lot of HP back here, but it's going to be enough to be able to help us out potentially in the future. He's gone in for the Swords Dance. Now, you don't normally see too many Swords Dancing Ogerpons. So that's actually just going to boost up his attack stat. And we're going to come in here now with our Rillaboom. Now, Rillaboom, of course, is going to set up the grassy terrain, and that's going to allow my Pokemon to regain some HP. The downside is that his Pokemon also get a little bit of that leftover type HP back. This is why I don't do a lot of post commentary. I can't really think about it as I'm doing this. But you know what? We're going to go in for the attack here again. We've locked in. There's a Spiky Shield again from the Ogerpon. Just going to protect itself there, so that way if it does manage to get any kind of physical attacks towards it, it's going to be able to get a little bit of chip damage off onto the opposing Pokemon, which is exactly what you're seeing here with the Fake Out with the Rillaboom. Draining Kiss, of course, aiming towards the Rillaboom. You stupid Comfey. Oh my god, that Pokemon is super annoying. Especially if it gets some bulk and reflex and all that stuff set up. But you know what? Araquanid, of course, still trying to go in after that Ogerpon. Not getting anywhere due to that Spiky Shield. Too bad I didn't have the Infiltrator ability, because I would have been able to bypass that. But that's unfortunate. Now, we could go in for the Grassy Glide. We could go for the Wood Hammer. We could go for U-turn here. pretty much at this point, I'm thinking the U-turn's probably the idea to go for. But as you guys can see, I'm kind of backing in and out of my attacks. I've debated between Grassy Glide and U-turn quite a few times, and we ended up going in for the Grassy Slide here. Ogerpon going in for the Spiky Shield, of course, just going to protect itself. The Grassy Slide, not going to be able to make contact with that Ogerpon here at this time, and we're going to get a little bit of chip damage back onto my Pokemon. Now, one thing that I'm very well known for is I tend to double up on some moves every so often, and it doesn't really help me out in the long run. But Comfey goes in for the Calm Mind. It's going to boost up its special defense as well as its special attack here. And of course, all around, we're going to get a little bit of HP back. And that's always pretty nice. I always really enjoy getting my HP back onto my team. Now, here we go. We're going to choose our moves here. We're going to go for the Wood Hammer. And of course, Wood Hammer is a stronger move all around with that Rillaboom. Plus, as well, we get a little bit of stab there. We're going to go in for the attack as well with the Araquanid. Here's the Draining Kiss, again coming from the Comfey. This might actually do more damage than before. Critical hit onto the Araquanid, of course. We're going to go for that Liquidation, and that actually does a ton of work onto the Comfey, which is fantastic. You definitely want to get that thing taken out. Here's the Wood Hammer, of course, coming into the Ogerpon. And we take it down to the red zone there, but you know what, it's going to get a little bit of HP back because it's decided to go for the Horn Leech onto our Araquanid and knock him out. Unfortunately, our Araquanid is gone, but you know what, I had a ton of fun using it, and with the play with the Trick Room with the Dusclops obviously is quite fun, catches some people off guard. Okay, all getting those lefties there, we're all getting a little bit of HP back. And of course, the Twisted Dimensions have returned to normal, which is just in time for us to bring in the GOAT, Fluttermane. Now, Fluttermane, of course, is a Fairy Ghost-type Pokemon, and it has a higher speed stat than most. Now, we could go in for the Dazzling Gleam here and hit the two Pokemon. At the same time, it's probably the best choice we could go for here. A lot of the times, Ogerpon, of course, you know, you're going to scout, you're going to do the Spiky Shield, you're going to protect yourself. That's exactly what's going to happen here. That's why I went for the Dazzling Gleam. Even though it did protect itself, I wanted to get some damage off onto the Comfey here as well. Poor Rillaboom, of course, going down there from that Draining Kiss, and of course, Comfey is getting back its HP. Not really what I wanted to have happen here. I could have probably gone for the Grassy Glide. Oh my gosh. Into the Comfey, get a little bit of damage off onto him there, but you know what, not much we could have really done in that situation. Dazzling Gleam, of course, does get some damage off onto the Comfey, not a whole lot, mainly because the special defense has been boosted. With the Draining Kiss, the leftovers, as well as the Grassy Terrain, it is actually boosting up the HP back onto the Comfey. We're going to lock in our move here, and of course, we're hoping that we're going to be able to get one of these two Pokemon out. There's the Draining Kiss coming into the Fluttermane. Not really looking good for Fluttermane here at this point. As you guys can see, that Comfey is gaining a lot of its HP back here. We're going in for the Dazzling Gleam, and of course, we're able to pick off the Ogerpon. And now it is down to two Fairy-type Pokemon here at this time. Okay, Grassy Terrain is still regaining some HP back onto both sides. As you guys can see, the leftovers still going onto the Comfey, and luckily for us, the Grassy Terrain has actually disappeared. But now is the time, guys. We have to go in for the Moonblast here at this time, or we risk the Comfey running wild on this battlefield. So here it goes with the Floral Healing. I don't really understand why it went for that. Gaining back some HP onto the Fluttermane. Moonblast taking him down right down to the last little sliver of HP there, and he's gaining back some HP with leftovers. And I don't know if he meant to really do that or not. I mean, pretty much at this point, there's not much that he could have really done. But here's the Draining Kiss. I mean, if he did that before, he might have been a little bit better off, but that's the way the game's played. You never know exactly what's going to happen in a Pokemon battle. And of course, there's the Moonblast, going to be able to pick up the KO on the Comfey. So that is another VGC Doubles ranked battle done through the game system. No tournament, of course, but right through the game system, and we have defeated Ed. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and take care.